Admiral Zekthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the strange object floating in space. His blue skin had darker patches that showed his confusion. The thing looked like a ship, but it was built all wrong. Where Imperial vessels were smooth and curved, this one had sharp edges and flat surfaces. Where they used shining metal alloys, this one seemed made of rough asteroid rock welded together. "Sir, we've never seen anything like it," said his science officer to Connie. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she read the scanner data. "The ship registers as active, but the power signatures make no sense. It's like they're using fusion reactors, but that's impossible for something this size." Zekthara's tail twitched with interest. In 300 years of service to the Galactic Empire, he had seen thousands of different ships from hundreds of species. This one was completely new. "Any response to our hails?" "Yes, sir, they're transmitting on basic radio frequencies. Our translation computers are having trouble with their language. It's unlike anything in our database." The Admiral smiled, showing his sharp teeth. This was exactly what the Empire needed. A new species meant new resources, new workers, and new territory. The Empire had grown by finding primitive species and bringing them into the fold. Most were grateful to join the greatest civilization in the galaxy. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen flickered and a face appeared. Zekthara had to stop himself from laughing. The creature looked so simple. It had only 2 eyes, pale skin, and strange fur on top of its head. No scales, no extra limbs, no natural weapons. Just a basic bipedal form that looked almost fragile. "This is Admiral Zekthara of the 3rd Imperial Fleet," he announced. "You are in violation of Imperial space. Identify yourself." The creature on the screen looked calm. It spoke in a strange language, and after a moment, the translation came through. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiant. We mean no harm. We're explorers from Earth seeking peaceful contact with other species." Earth. Another planet full of primitives, no doubt. Zekthara had processed dozens of first contacts just like this one. "Captain Chen, your species is unknown to Imperial records. By law, all new species must submit to Imperial authority and undergo classification. Prepare to be boarded." The human's expression didn't change. "I'm sorry, Admiral, but we can't agree to that. We're a free people. We'd be happy to establish diplomatic relations, but we won't submit to anyone." Zekthara's good mood started to fade. Most species understood the benefits of joining the Empire immediately. Free healthcare, advanced technology, protection from hostile neighbors. Why would anyone refuse? "You don't understand, Captain. This isn't a request. The Empire has brought peace and prosperity to 47,000 species. You will benefit from our guidance." "We appreciate the offer," Chen said. "But Earth has managed just fine on its own. We have our own government, our own laws, and our own way of life. We're not looking to change that." The Admiral's patience ran out. These humans were clearly too primitive to understand what was good for them. Their ship was a joke, cobbled together from scrap metal and running on ancient technology. One show of Imperial power would make them see reason. Takani, scan their vessel. "Give me full technical specifications." His science officer worked at her console for several minutes, her confusion growing. "Sir, this is very strange. Their ship appears to be constructed primarily from asteroid iron and nickel. But it's much lighter than it should be. Their power source reads as a basic fusion reactor, but it's producing energy levels that should require antimatter containment. Are your scanners malfunctioning?" "I don't think so, sir. I've run 3 full diagnostics. The readings are consistent, but they don't make sense." Zekthara turned back to the screen. Captain Chen was waiting patiently, her hands folded behind her back. She looked like she had all the time in the world. "Captain, you have 1 hour to reconsider. Your ship is clearly no match for Imperial technology. Submit now, and your people will be classified as Category 7 servitors. That's actually quite generous for a first contact situation." "What does that mean exactly?" Chen asked. "It means your species will be given useful work throughout the Empire. Construction, mining, basic manufacturing. You'll be fed, housed, and protected. Many species consider it an honor." Something changed in the human's expression. Her face became harder, and her voice grew cold. "You're talking about slavery. The Empire doesn't use that term. We prefer guided integration. Your species will contribute to the greater good of galactic civilization." "Admiral Zekthara," Chen said slowly, "let me make something very clear. Humans don't do slavery. We don't practice it, we don't tolerate it, and we certainly don't submit to it. Not now, not ever. Captain, you're being emotional and irrational. Look at the facts. Your ship is primitive, your technology is centuries behind ours. You have no allies, no fleet, no way to resist Imperial authority. Be reasonable. I am being reasonable, Chen replied. I'm giving you a chance to leave peacefully. Turn your ships around and go home. Tell your empire that humans are not interested in joining. Zekthara laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. You're threatening me? With what? That pile of scrap you call a starship? With whatever it takes, Chen said simply. The Admiral had heard enough. This primitive species needed a lesson in reality. Captain Chen, you have 30 minutes to surrender. After that, we'll disable your ship and take you by force. This is your final warning. The human looked directly into the camera. Admiral, this is my final warning to you. Leave now while you still can. The transmission ended. Zekthara stared at the blank screen in disbelief. In 3 centuries of service, no primitive species had ever spoken to him like that. They usually begged, or tried to bargain. They didn't make threats against the Imperial fleet. Takani, how many crew does that ship have? Approximately 2,000, sir. Much smaller than our complement. The Imperial flagship alone carried 50,000 crew members and had firepower equivalent to a planetary defense grid. The human ship looked like something built in a scrapyard. This would be over quickly. Signal the fleet. Prepare for standard suppression protocols. We'll disable their engines and life support, then board them. Try not to damage their ship too badly. The Science Directorate will want to study their primitive technology. Yes, sir, came the reply from his weapons officer. But as the Imperial ships moved into attack formation, Takani called out with worry in her voice. Sir, their power readings are spiking. Their reactor is putting out more energy than should be possible. Impossible how? The output suggests they have at least 12 antimatter cores, but scans show only a single fusion reactor. The physics don't work. Zekthara felt a cold chill run through his body. In all his years of service, Imperial science had never been wrong about basic physics. Energy couldn't be created from nothing. Matter and antimatter had specific ratios. Fusion had absolute limits. So why were the humans doing something that couldn't be done? Continue with the attack, he ordered, but his voice wasn't as confident as before. As the Imperial ships closed in, the human vessel just waited. It didn't run, didn't call for help, didn't even seem concerned. It just hung in space like it was exactly where it wanted to be. That worried Admiral Zekthara more than any threat could have. The first wave of Imperial attack hit the human ship exactly as planned. 3 dreadnoughts fired their EMP cannons at once, sending enough electromagnetic pulse energy to shut down every electronic system on a planet. The blast lit up space in a brilliant blue flash. Admiral Zekthara waited for the human ship to go dark. All primitive species used basic electronics that couldn't handle EMP attacks. Their lights would go out, their engines would stop, and they would drift helpless in space. The human ship kept moving. Report, Zekthara demanded. Takani stared at her instruments with all 4 eyes wide. Sir, their systems are still active. In fact, I'm reading increased power output from their reactor. That's impossible. Nothing can function after a direct EMP hit like that. Their technology doesn't seem to work like ours, sir. The electromagnetic pulse actually appears to have made their reactor more efficient. The Admiral's tail lashed with frustration. Fire the tractor beams, lock them in place. 4 Imperial ships activated their gravitational tractor beams, the same technology used to drag asteroids and disabled vessels. The combined force was enough to hold a moon in place. The beam struck the human ship and should have stopped it instantly. Instead, the human vessel started moving faster. What's happening? Zekthara roared. The tractor beams are working, sir, but somehow the human ship is using our own gravitational force to accelerate. It's like they've turned our weapons into engines. On the main screen, the human ship was now moving in a graceful arc, completely ignoring the fact that it should be held motionless by Imperial technology. Worse, it was heading directly toward the nearest Imperial dreadnought. Sir, called the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it through. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen again. She looked completely calm, as if nothing unusual was happening. Admiral Zekthara, you seem to be having technical difficulties. Would you like us to explain how our ship works? Your ship should be disabled, Zekthara snapped. Should be, according to whose physics? Chen asked. You're using electromagnetic pulses on a ship designed to run on electromagnetic energy. You're using gravity beams on a ship that uses gravity manipulation for propulsion. Did you really think we wouldn't know how to handle our own technology? The Admiral felt his confidence cracking. Impossible. Our science is perfect. We understand all known physics. Admiral, you understand Imperial physics. But humans aren't. Part of your empire, remember? We learned physics in a completely different way. Takani called out in panic. Sir, they're charging weapons. But I don't understand the energy signatures. It's not plasma, not particle beams, not anything in our database. What are they using? It appears to be kinetic energy, sir. They're preparing to fire metal projectiles. Zekthara almost laughed. Kinetic weapons? What is this, the Stone Age? Fire shield generators. Their primitive bullets won't even scratch our hulls. The Imperial ships activated their energy shields, creating barriers that could stop anything from laser beams to antimatter torpedoes. The technology had protected Imperial vessels for thousands of years. Nothing physical could pass through an energy shield. The human ship fired. The projectiles looked like simple metal rods, nothing more. They moved much faster than they should have been able to, but they were still just chunks of iron and steel. They hit the first Imperial shield and should have bounced off harmlessly. Instead, they went straight through like the shield wasn't there. What? Zekthara screamed. The metal rods punched through the Imperial dreadnought's armor and exploded inside the ship. Lights went out across 3 decks. The massive vessel shuddered and began listing to one side. How did they penetrate our shields? The Admiral demanded. Takani was working frantically at her console. I don't know, sir. The energy barriers were at full power. The projectiles should have been stopped. It's like they exist in a different dimension or something. That's impossible. So is everything else they're doing, sir. The human ship was now close enough that its details were visible on the screen. Zekthara could see the rough welding, the patched hull plates, the simple design. It looked like something built by children playing with metal scraps. But somehow, this primitive vessel was making Imperial technology look like toys. Sir, the communications officer called out. Priority message from the Science Directorate on Dominion Prime. Now? We're in the middle of battle. They say it's urgent, sir. They've been analyzing the data we sent about the human ship. Put them through. A new face appeared on a smaller screen. Dr. Vexhai was the Empire's chief physicist, a Zephyrian with a brain the size of a small moon. He looked terrified. Admiral, Vexhai said, his voice shaking. Whatever you're doing, stop immediately. The human technology doesn't obey our physical laws. Their ship appears to operate on principles we don't understand. What does that mean? It means they might be able to do anything, Admiral. If they found ways around the basic rules of physics, there's no limit to what they could accomplish. Their weapons could ignore any defense. Their ships could move in ways we can't predict. We need to study this immediately. Zekthara looked back at the human vessel. It was just sitting there again, waiting patiently, like a predator that knew it had already won. Doctor, can we counter their technology? Not until we understand it, and right now we don't understand any of it. Admiral, I strongly recommend you avoid further conflict until we can analyze their capabilities. It was too late for that advice. The human ship was moving again, this time toward a second Imperial dreadnought. As it flew, impossible things kept happening. It accelerated without visible thrust. It changed direction without slowing down. It ignored gravitational fields that should have pulled it off course. Most disturbing of all, it was getting faster. Takani, how is that ship accelerating? I don't know, sir. Our instruments show no exhaust, no energy discharge, no gravitational manipulation. It's like space itself is pushing them forward. Captain Chen's voice came through the communications system again. Admiral Zekthara, this doesn't have to continue. We tried to warn you that human technology works differently. You chose not to listen. What do you want? Zekthara asked through gritted teeth. The same thing we wanted an hour ago. For you to leave us alone. We're not interested in joining your empire, and we're not interested in fighting you. But if you keep attacking us, we'll keep defending ourselves. You call this defending? You've damaged an Imperial dreadnought. Admiral, if we wanted to attack you, your entire fleet would already be gone. We're being very gentle. The words sent ice through Zekthara's veins. Gentle? They had just punched holes through the most advanced shields in the galaxy like they were made of paper. If this was gentle, what could they do when they were serious? Sir, Takani whispered. I'm detecting more human ships approaching from multiple directions. How many? At least 12, sir. And they're all different designs, different sizes, different energy signatures, different impossible physics. Admiral Zekthara realized he was no longer dealing with one strange primitive ship. He was facing an entire fleet of vessels that could do things Imperial science said were impossible, and they were just getting started. The emergency session of the Imperial War Council began at midnight on Dominion Prime. Fleet Admiral Krextar, Supreme Commander of all Imperial forces, sat at the head of a crystal table that stretched across the vast chamber. Around him, the greatest military minds in the galaxy gathered in holographic projection from across 100 worlds. General Mordak of the Assault Division was the first to speak. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 50 star systems. This is ridiculous. We're discussing one primitive ship that got lucky against a patrol fleet. Send a proper battle group and end this nonsense. It wasn't one ship, interrupted Admiral Zekthara, appearing as a blue hologram. By the end of the encounter, we counted 17 human vessels, each one operating on impossible physics, each one capable of ignoring our best weapons and defenses. Dr. Vexhai materialized beside him, his massive brain pulsing with nervous energy. The Admiral is correct. I've analyzed all the combat data. Human technology violates at least 12 fundamental laws of physics. Their ships do things that should be impossible. Impossible according to what? Asked General Mordak. Our science has been proven across 1,000,000 worlds for 10,000 years. Exactly, Vexhai replied. Our science works for every known species in the galaxy, except humans. They appear to operate under completely different physical rules. Fleet Admiral Krextar raised one of his 6 hands for silence. He was old, even by Dominion standards, and had seen the Empire grow from a few dozen worlds to spanning the galaxy. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Show me the combat footage. The chamber's main display activated, showing Admiral Zekthara's encounter with the human fleet. The War Council watched in growing silence as Imperial weapons failed, Imperial shields were ignored, and Imperial ships were outmaneuvered by vessels that looked like flying scrapyards. Their largest ship, Krextar observed, appears to be constructed from asteroid materials. No advanced alloys, no quantum matrices, yet it moves like it has inertial dampeners we can't detect. That's not the worst part, Zekthara said. When they fired their kinetic weapons, the projectiles passed through our energy shields without any interaction. It's like they exist in a different dimension until they hit solid matter. Intelligence Director Silnara spoke from her hidden location. Her species was naturally paranoid, which made them excellent spies. How many humans are there? How many ships do they have? Unknown, Zekthara admitted. They claim to represent something called the United Earth Ship Program. Our long-range scanners have detected human vessels in at least 30 different systems. 30 systems? General Mordak scoffed. The Empire controls 3 million systems. Even if their ships are unusual, they can't have more than a few hundred vessels total. Dr. Vexhai's image flickered with distress. General, you're not understanding the implications. If human technology really works on different physical principles, then our entire military doctrine is useless against them. All our weapons, all our defenses, all our tactics are based on laws of physics they apparently ignore. That's impossible, Mordak insisted. Physics is physics. The universe doesn't work differently for different species. Apparently it does for humans. Fleet Admiral Krextar had been quiet during the argument, studying the tactical displays. Now he spoke, and his words chilled everyone in the chamber. I've reviewed the sensor data. The human ships aren't just ignoring our physics. They're using our own attacks against us. When we fired tractor beams, they used them for propulsion. When we hit them with EMP blasts, their power output increased. How is that possible? Asked General Mordak. It suggests they understand our technology better than we do, Krextar replied. They knew exactly what we would do and had already prepared counters. Intelligence Director Silnara's paranoia kicked into high gear. Are we dealing with a species that's been watching us, studying us, preparing for this encounter? The evidence suggests yes, Krextar said grimly. But there's something else. Look at this footage. The display showed the moment when Captain Chen warned Admiral Zekthara to leave peacefully, her calm confidence, her lack of surprise at Imperial technology, her casual dismissal of threats that should have terrified any primitive species. She wasn't afraid, Krextar observed. When faced with the Third Imperial Fleet, she acted like she was dealing with a minor annoyance. Either humans are incredibly brave, incredibly stupid, or they know something we don't, Silnara finished. The chamber fell silent, as the implications sank in. The Galactic Empire had thrived for millennia because it understood all forms of technology better than anyone else. When they encountered a new species, Imperial scientists could immediately analyze their capabilities and develop counters. It had worked against 47,000 different civilizations, but humans were different. "What do we know about their home system?" Krextar asked. Admiral Zekthara consulted his notes. "They call it Sol. It contains one inhabited world called Earth. Our deep space scanners show it's heavily industrialized with a population of several billion. But here's the strange part. Their industrial signatures don't match their ship capabilities." Explain. "Their planet shows basic fusion reactors, standard manufacturing, conventional agriculture. Nothing that should be able to produce the technology we encountered." Dr. Vexhi's massive brain pulsed faster. "That suggests they're either hiding their true capabilities, or their advanced technology is so different from ours that we can't recognize it. Or both," added Silnara ominously. General Mordak was growing frustrated with all the speculation. "This is all very interesting, but we still have a military problem. These humans refused Imperial authority and attacked our ships. We can't let that stand. It would encourage rebellion across the Empire." "What do you propose?" Krextar asked. "Send the first battle fleet. 300 dreadnoughts, 50,000 fighters, the best commanders in the Empire. Show these humans what real Imperial power looks like. And if their impossible technology works against 300 ships the same way it worked against 12, Vexhi asked. "Then we send 3,000 ships," Mordak replied stubbornly. "General," Krextar said quietly, "we may be dealing with a species that has found ways to make our numerical superiority irrelevant. If one human ship can defeat 12 Imperial dreadnoughts, what makes you think more ships will help?" The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. For the first time in Imperial history, they were facing an enemy that couldn't be overwhelmed with superior numbers or superior technology. Intelligence Director Silnara spoke from the shadows. "I recommend we open diplomatic channels immediately. Not to surrender, but to learn. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we make any military decisions." "Absolutely not," General Mordak snapped. "The Empire doesn't negotiate with primitives. It conquers them." "These primitives just made our best fleet look like children playing with toys," Silnara shot back. Fleet Admiral Krextar made his decision. "We will pursue a dual approach. General Mordak will prepare a battle fleet, but it will not engage without my direct orders. Director Silnara will establish diplomatic contact and gather intelligence. Dr. Vexhi will assemble a team to study human technology. And if the humans refuse to talk?" Mordak asked. "Then we'll learn exactly how dangerous they really are," Krextar replied grimly. As the War Council ended and the holograms faded, Fleet Admiral Krextar remained alone in the vast chamber. He stared at the tactical displays showing human ship movements across Imperial space. More vessels appeared every day, each one different from the last, each one impossible. For the first time in his long career, Krextar felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The Empire had always won because it was stronger, smarter, and better organized than everyone else. But what if they weren't? What if there was a species out there that was stronger, smarter, and better organized? What if humans weren't the primitive newcomers they appeared to be? What if the Empire had finally met its match? Admiral Zekthara received his new orders 3 days after the War Council meeting. He read them twice, then called his senior staff to the briefing room. The message was simple but terrifying. Capture one human ship intact, no matter the cost. "Sir?" his weapons officer asked. "Didn't we already try that?" "This time will be different," Zekthara replied, though he didn't sound convinced. "High Command is sending us reinforcements. We'll have 12 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, and 200 fighter craft. Even these impossible humans can't fight those numbers." Takani, his science officer, looked nervous. "Admiral, what if their technology scales with opposition? What if more ships just give them more weapons to turn against us?" "That's impossible," Zekthara said automatically, but the words felt empty. Everything about humans seemed to be impossible. The target had been chosen carefully, a single human vessel operating alone near the edge of Imperial space. According to their databases, it was designated UES Indomitable and classified as a battleship by human standards. Long-range scans showed it was larger than the ships they had encountered before, but it was still just one vessel against an entire Imperial battle fleet. Admiral Zekthara stood on his bridge and watched the human ship grow, larger on the main screen. It looked like all the others, rough, angular, built from scavenged materials. But this one was bigger, almost a kilometer long, with what appeared to be heavy weapon installations along its hull. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel," his communications officer reported. "Put it through." A new face appeared on screen. This human was older than Captain Chen, with gray hair and tired eyes, but he had the same calm confidence that all humans seem to possess. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Indomitable," the man said. "You're Admiral Zekathara, I believe. We've heard about your previous encounter with Captain Chen." "Captain Rodriguez, I'm here on direct orders from Imperial High Command. You will surrender your vessel for study, or we will take it by force." Rodriguez smiled, and the expression was somehow more frightening than any threat. "Admiral, do you see that asteroid field behind us? My ship and I were just finishing some mining operations when you arrived." Zekathara looked past the human ship and saw a scattered field of broken rocks. "So? Those used to be 3 solid asteroids, each about 10 kilometers across. We needed raw materials for ship construction, so we broke them down for processing. With mining equipment. With our main guns," Rodriguez said casually. "Took about 30 seconds per asteroid, very efficient." The Admiral felt ice form in his stomach. Asteroids that size would require massive demolition charges or sustained bombardment with heavy weapons to break apart. The fact that humans could do it in 30 seconds with ship-mounted weapons was deeply disturbing. "You're trying to frighten me," Zekathara said. "Admiral, I'm trying to save your life. You have brave crews on those ships. They don't deserve to die because their commanders don't understand what they're facing. Captain, you're outnumbered 50 to 1. Your ship, no matter how advanced, cannot fight an entire Imperial battle fleet." Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. "You know, Admiral, that's exactly what the Korvaxi hegemony said when they tried to invade Earth. They had 1,000 ships. We had 12. What happened? We sent their survivors home with a message. The same message I'm giving you now. Leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone." Zekathara cut the transmission. He had heard enough threats and impossible claims. It was time for action. "All ships attack formation," he ordered. "Target their engines and weapons. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed." The Imperial fleet moved forward like an unstoppable tide of metal and fire. 12 massive dreadnoughts led the charge, their weapon systems glowing with barely contained energy. Behind them came 40 cruisers, and scattered throughout the formation, 200 fighters darted like angry insects. The human ship just waited. "Sir," Takani called out. "Their power readings are spiking again, much higher than anything we've seen before." "How much higher?" "If these readings are accurate, their reactor is putting out more energy than our entire fleet combined." "Admiral," Zekathara gripped his command chair. "That's impossible. One ship cannot generate more power than an entire Imperial battle fleet." "Nevertheless, sir, that's what our instruments show." The first wave of Imperial attacks began. Energy beams lanced out from a dozen dreadnoughts, carrying enough destructive force to crack a moon. Plasma torpedoes followed, streaking through space like miniature suns. The combined firepower was devastating, overwhelming, absolute. The human ship's shields flared to life and absorbed everything without even flickering. "What kind of shields are those?" Zekathara demanded. "Unknown, sir. They don't appear to be energy-based. It's like they're made of hardened space itself." The second wave hit with even more force. Every ship in the Imperial fleet fired at once, creating a light show that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The space around the human vessel became a cauldron of destructive energy. When the light faded, the UES Indomitable was completely undamaged. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the communications system, calm as ever. "Admiral, you're wasting ammunition. Our shields are designed to handle much worse than that." "Impossible," Zekathara screamed. "Nothing can withstand that much firepower." "Admiral, we're humans. We designed our ships to fight other humans. Do you have any idea how destructive we can be when we put our minds to it?" The human ship began to move. Not the graceful acceleration they had seen before, but something new. The Indomitable simply teleported from one position to another, appearing instantly behind the Imperial formation. "How did they do that?" Takani gasped. Before anyone could answer, the human ship fired. The weapons weren't like anything the Empire had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, the Indomitable launched what appeared to be small black spheres. They moved slowly, almost lazily, drifting toward the Imperial fleet like soap bubbles. Sir, those projectiles are barely moving. Our point defense systems will destroy them easily. But when the Imperial defensive guns fired, their shots passed right through the black spheres without effect. The strange projectiles continued their leisurely flight toward the dreadnoughts. The first sphere touched the hull of the ICS Dominator, the Empire's newest and most powerful warship. The entire vessel simply vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded, not damaged, gone as if it had never existed. "Where did it go?" Zekthara roared. "I don't know, sir. It was there, and then it wasn't. There's no debris, no energy signature, nothing." The second sphere reached another dreadnought. Same result. The massive ship disappeared without a trace. No explosion, no death screams, no wreckage. One moment it was there, the next it was empty space. Panic spread through the Imperial fleet. Captains were shouting contradictory orders, trying to avoid the slowly moving death spheres that couldn't be stopped or diverted. Ships scattered in all directions, abandoning formation and discipline. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple vessels." "Surrender? To one ship? Sir, they've destroyed 4 dreadnoughts, without taking any damage. Our weapons can't hurt them and we can't avoid their attacks. This isn't a battle anymore, it's a massacre." Captain Rodriguez appeared on screen again, his expression sad. "Admiral Zekthara, please order your remaining ships to withdraw. I don't want to destroy them all, but I will if they keep attacking." "What did you do to my ships?" "Temporal displacement. They're perfectly safe, just shifted forward in time by about 50 years. They'll reappear eventually, long after this conflict is resolved." Zekthara stared at the human in horror. "You can manipulate time itself?" "Admiral, we're humans. We can manipulate anything if we need to badly enough. The question is, do we need to manipulate your entire fleet, or are you going to be reasonable?" Looking at his tactical display, Admiral Zekthara saw that half his fleet was gone. The remaining ships were fleeing in terror, their crews refusing to face weapons that could make entire dreadnoughts vanish from existence. "This isn't over," he whispered. "Yes, it is," Rodriguez replied gently. "Admiral, go home. Tell your empire that humans just want to be left alone. We don't want to conquer anyone, we don't want to rule anyone, and we don't want to fight anyone, but we will defend ourselves with whatever force is necessary." As the last Imperial ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the impossible human vessel, Admiral Zekthara sent a priority message to High Command that would change the course of galactic history. Human capabilities exceed all possible projections. Recommend immediate cessation of hostilities and opening of diplomatic channels. This species represents an existential threat to Imperial supremacy. We cannot win a war against enemies who can rewrite the laws of physics. Sarah Chen walked through the massive corridors of Nexus Prime, her boots clicking against the strange metal floors. The Galactic Council building towered above her like a mountain made of crystal and steel. Alien beings moved around her, some floating, others walking on 6 legs, a few that looked like living clouds of gas. All of them ignored the small human woman in the simple black suit. She had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now. 3 years of sitting in meetings where aliens talked about humanity like they were children who needed protection. 3 years of watching her people get treated like pets in a zoo. 3 years of keeping her mouth shut while the galaxy made decisions that affected everyone, except the ones making them. The council chamber was huge. Seats rose up in circles, each one designed for different alien bodies. The Vorthak sat in their crystal chairs, their bodies looking like living diamonds. The Etherians floated in special containers filled with the gas they needed to survive. The Zephyrians clicked and buzzed in their metal seats, their insect-like bodies shining under the lights. Sarah took her place in the small human section. Just one chair. Earth got 1 vote out of 300. The other species called this fair because humans were new to galactic society. 50 years was nothing to beings who lived for thousands of years. The emergency session was about the Chromark Empire. For months, the militaristic aliens had been attacking worlds on the edge of the galaxy. They used massive ships and powerful weapons to destroy anyone who fought back. Whole planets had gone quiet. Billions of aliens were dead or missing. "Chantir," Vorthak's speaker's voice rang like broken glass. "The Chromark have taken 12 more systems. They demand tribute from all nearby worlds. We must respond with economic sanctions." Economic sanctions. Sarah almost laughed. The Chromark were burning planets, and the galaxy's response was to stop trading with them. It was like trying to stop a forest fire by asking it nicely to go away. The Etherean representative spoke next, their voice like wind through caves. We propose a strongly worded message, perhaps a formal complaint to their government. The debate went on for hours. The aliens talked about diplomatic protests, trade restrictions, and formal procedures. They spoke in careful words about proper channels and following protocol. Nobody talked about actually fighting back. Nobody mentioned saving the people who were dying while they debated. Sarah watched the news feeds on her tablet. The Cromark had just attacked the Eldorian homeworld. The peaceful blue planet was covered in beautiful cities and gardens. 12 billion gentle beings lived there, spending their lives creating art and poetry. They had no weapons, no armies. They believed that beauty and kindness could solve any problem. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, Aldoria was a burned rock floating in space. 12 billion voices silenced forever. The Cromarch broadcast their victory across the galaxy as a warning to anyone who might resist them. Sarah stood up. Her chair made a small noise that somehow cut through all the alien voices in the chamber. The room fell silent. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to look at the small human woman. "I have something to say," Sarah announced. Her voice carried clearly in the sudden quiet. The Vorthak speaker made a sound like grinding glass. "The human representative may speak, but please remember that your species lacks experience in galactic affairs." Sarah walked down to the center of the chamber. She looked around at all the alien faces. Some were curious. Most looked annoyed that their important meeting had been interrupted by the pet human. 50 years ago, your ships found Earth," she began. "You told us we were too dangerous to join galactic society. You said our weapons were too primitive, our technology too simple. You made us promise to stay in our own solar system. You told us this was for our own protection." She paused, looking directly at the Zephyrian war leader. "We agreed. We said we would follow your rules. We kept our fleet small. We used only the weapons you approved. We stayed home like good little humans while you ran the galaxy." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the constant humming of the Etherians had stopped. "You called this wisdom," Sarah continued. "You said you were teaching us to be civilized. We called it courtesy. We were being polite guests in your galaxy." She turned to face the main viewing screen, where images of burning Aldorian cities still played. "But now we have a problem. The Cromark think your weakness makes you easy targets. They see how you handle threats with strongly worded letters and economic sanctions. They think you are prey." Sarah's voice got harder, colder. "They are about to learn what real predators look like." The Vorthak speaker made an angry grinding sound. "The human speaks out of turn. Your species has no understanding of proper warfare. You have fought no galactic conflicts." "No," Sarah agreed. "We have not fought any galactic conflicts, because you told us not to. Because we were being nice." She smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "We are done being nice." She activated her communicator. The device projected a hologram that filled the air above the chamber floor. It showed a star map of local space with the Cromark Empire marked in red. Their ships were moving toward more peaceful worlds, leaving trails of destruction behind them. "This is your last warning," Sarah announced to the entire chamber. "The Cromark Empire will be stopped. The people they have killed will be avenged. The worlds they have burned will be rebuilt under proper protection." The Etherian representative made a whistling sound of confusion. "What does the human mean? Earth has no military capacity beyond their home system." Sarah's smile got wider. "You really believe that? After 50 years of watching us, you actually think we stayed home and did nothing?" She shook her head. "You have no idea what we have been building out there in the dark." She deactivated the hologram and looked around the chamber one more time. The Cromark laugh at threats from what they call a single system species. They think humans are weak because you told them we were. They are about to discover the difference between being weak and being patient. The Zephyrian war leader clicked angrily. "This is impossible. We monitor all human activities. Your people have no secret weapons, no hidden fleets." "You monitor what we let you see," Sarah replied calmly. "Did you really think a species that fought world wars with atomic weapons would spend 50 years sitting quietly in one solar system? Did you think we would just accept being treated like children forever?" She walked toward the exit, her footsteps the only sound in the massive chamber. At the doorway, she turned back one last time. "We tried to be your neighbors. We wanted to be part of your galactic community. You preferred to keep us as pets." Her voice carried clearly to every corner of the chamber. The Cromark want to make us slaves. Now you all get to meet us as we really are. The doors closed behind her with a soft sound. The chamber erupted in alien voices, all talking at once. Some were angry, some were confused, some were frightened. But Sarah Chen was already walking back to her ship, preparing to return to Earth. She had delivered the warning. What happened next was up to the galaxy. But the time for talking was over. Humanity had been patient for 50 years. They had followed the rules, played the game, and stayed quiet while the galaxy burned around them. Now it was time to show the universe what Earth had been doing while everyone else was watching.